Before we get into today's episode, I want to give a quick shout out to our founding sponsor, Digital Recruiter Podcast, Signature Back Office Solutions. If you're running a staffing firm, if you're a direct hire and your clients are asking you about contractors and all that, you're trying to figure out where am I going to get funding or payroll taken care of, talk to Signature Back Office Solutions, signaturebackoffice.com. They've been doing this since 2006. They work with over 400 staffing firms. They'll handle everything, payroll, compliance, workers' comp in all 50 states. You don't have to worry about a thing. Make sure to check out the link in the episode summary. Book a call with my good friend, John Davis, the president CEO of Signature Back Office Solutions. Welcome back. Got a very special episode of Digital Recruiter Podcast. I am joined by a friend. Someone's become a friend the last few months. She had to chase me down a little bit for us to be able to work together. But she found me. We made it. Hat tip, Keely Flood. Thanks for the introduction. And it's been great to work with her and her team. And if you don't know their name, you should know their name because they're everywhere in the industry. They've been a mainstay and a huge player for a couple decades now, really over 3 decades. Michelle Masterson, managing partner, Next Level Exchange, and Sanford Rose Associates. How are you?
I'm doing great. The feeling's mutual. It's been great working together. I'm excited for everything else to come too. It's been super fun.
Yeah, it's been fun to just see you and Greg and Karen and John out there on LinkedIn. You guys know so much. And it's not really to focus on our conversation, but it's so much of with the email, and traditionally you guys have a huge brand. It's been cool to see all of you realize wow, there's a lot more recruiters on LinkedIn now this decade than there were before. So it's the tagline digital recruiter has always been old school recruiting meets the digital age. Yeah. And I feel like you guys have been the epitome of that by getting on LinkedIn. And it's been cool to see just the response and everything else. And for me to learn more about the impact that you and your team have and the amount of recruiters that you supported and helped scale. I mean, just some crazy numbers. But for the potentially uneducated listeners, could you just give kind of a quick breakdown of kind of how all the pieces work with Sanford Rose and Next Level and all that?
Yeah, it's complicated. When I was actively dating, it was very hard to describe what do you do for a living. And I didn't want to be like, oh, I'm in sales because then it sounds shady. I'm like, it's just, are you really that interested? Because it's complicated. But it's great because there's a piece for kind of anyone in our industry. So we've got Next Level Exchange, which is our division, if you will, on consulting, training. A lot of people are introduced to us through our training. And that could be for new entry level recruiters. It could be for experienced recruiters. Training on any side of it. But the training and consulting piece is probably the biggest side of it. And also helping firms hire additional support, recruiters, people in production and that type of thing. But we work with mainly boutique recruiting firms, all kinds of sizes really, but helping them grow and scale through training and consulting, all kinds of stuff, marketing, communications, that type of thing. Then with Sanford Rose Associates, that's our network of offices. SRA has grown substantially since we acquired it in 2012, but essentially the whole purpose behind Sanford Rose is to help firms that do want to grow and scale, to give them that support in order to do so. So an owner doesn't have to wear all of the hats themselves. So all kinds of things like hiring support, training support, things that you can get with Next Level Exchange on an a la carte basis are all included with SRA, plus dozens of other things like discounts, procurement to different vendors and services that you're using. And then we also have Starfish Partners, which is our parent company, if you will, where we've acquired other search firms and that are a part of Starfish, but have their own branding and usually in their own industry. And then we do also have Dimensional Search. So if anyone sees that come up, that's our newer entity and franchise that we've started over the past couple of years, which is bringing people outside of our industry into the world of recruiting and helping them build, grow, and scale their firm. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
That was a great rundown. Yeah. It took me a couple months, but I was able to kind of figure and piece it all together. And I remember getting asked. Jeff asked me a couple weeks ago. It's like, so do you know, like, you figured out the difference between dimensional search and all that? And I somehow I nailed it.
You did
So
know
I got it right. I was very proud of myself for that. So I was like, I knew I was I was on the hot seat. So yeah, there's a lot of pieces, but it is cool. They all do play off each other. I think what you were saying offline, like, it all kind of happened organically,
yeah.
which is kind of cool because you guys have there's something with the franchise model. I've seen some that feel like, are they really providing the training? But the first exposure I got to the organization was through next level courses and training, because I was trying to like figure out, like, I'm not necessarily like the go-to train a brand new recruiter. Like, I know what to do and can do it. It's just like I don't really want it. So I saw it and I was like, oh, I can recommend this to anyone that needs it. I'm like, go get next level for your new hire and have them watch everything. I've shown it to, like, we've had this description, showed it to my team. Here's like the fundamental basics. And then just to kind of see, it was obvious that, like, just organically, you guys knew recruiting and everything else built out from that. Versus I've seen other people get into the franchise. It's like, well, just go get Rex. Right? Just go sign agreements. It's like, well, there's a lot more to it
So,
than all that, right? And I don't know if you kind of want to dive into, like, organically how this all kind of developed and kind of like the DNA of it all, but I just think it's really interesting. Yeah,
I've been here. This is my 14-year anniversary, which is like nuts.
yeah,
Because I don't remember like life not being here, but I also feel like I've been like it was just yesterday. I'm so grateful and blessed to be a part of the organization. Just the people here, like my team, hands down, just incredible individuals, and I think that that makes doing whatever you're doing for work just so much more enjoyable and fulfilling, and just more of a commitment that you want to honor
yeah.
for something that's bigger than yourself. So I can't say enough positive things about the team. We just have an incredible group of people. But when we started Next Level Exchange, it was before my time. I think it was 2007 or 2008. And I've heard the story, and I have some on my bookshelf in front of my computer. But it started because we were a part of a franchise. Kay Bassman, which was our one of our Starfish Partners offices, was a part of a franchise, and we broke away from that. But we knew we still wanted to like grow and hire and bring people on, but we didn't have anything. We were on our own. We didn't have any corporate support. We had to develop our own training, much like many firm owners have to do. So we developed our training, and it was great training. And Jeff said one day, why don't we offer this to our industry? A lot of people would be like, why do you want to train your competitors? But Jeff's mindset has always been a rising tide lifts all ships. Like, why can't we make our industry better and be able to provide that to people? So um, that's what we started. Next level, I think it was Next Level Recruiting Training is what it was originally called, and it was DVDs. And even up until like 5 years ago, it was like, well, maybe we could does anyone want any of these DVDs? I'm like, no, but I still have the OG DVDs, and I will never get rid of them. But it's all moved on, obviously online now. But I think that he actually was at a NAPS conference. Don't quote me on this because I might be off, but I'm pretty sure they were at a NAPS conference, and he was like selling them out of like the back of a car. So started off like that, and it grew substantially to what it was. And we started it, or he started it, and Karen started it in the middle of like a downturn, like 2008, which is
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of crazy. But it ended up working out really well, and we've grown that to what it is today. And then in 2012 is when we acquired Sanford Associates, which is the year I started. It was a very organic thing, and it was just an introduction from Ron Mosley, who's on our team, and they got on the phone with Jeff, and it just ended up becoming a very organic thing that was not planned. Just as everything has kind of happened with us, Dimensional Surge, Starfish Partners, all of it has been something that I would say the best word to use is intentional, and very organic.
Yeah, I love that. And so then you come into play right around the time this is all kind of coming together, right? Transformers, if you will. It starts, exploding. How did you fall into the recruiting world, if you will? Yeah,
So it's not a sexy story, but I had been at an oncology consulting firm just doing HR and marketing coordination, a very entry level job. I went to school and grad school for creative writing, which is the equivalent of like going to an acting school. I wasn't going to be the next, Sarah Jessica Parker. But it was just a job, and I'm really grateful for that experience because it helped me learn things that I didn't want in a company or in leadership, which I think, and not a knock on anything, it's just the things that I didn't know were important to me became really clear. And my mom said, well, you recruited for your university, you recruited for your sorority. Why don't you like look at doing something like that? And I was like, well, maybe it's kind of the same thing. And I Googled best places to work in DFW, and Kay Bassman came up. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna apply. I was like, I'm not gonna do it today. I'll do it tomorrow or this weekend because I've had a job. And I went to go apply a couple of days later, and the job posting for entry level recruiter was taken down. And I was devastated. I remember calling my mom. I was like, I missed my opportunity. They filled the role. I'm so upset. And then that Monday I was back at work, and I looked at their website again, and it was back up. And I was like, oh my gosh, it didn't work out. This is my chance. And little did I know it was like a reoccurring post.
Yeah.
But I watched Karen's interview tip prep video. I came to the interview with like minimal makeup on, no perfume, all black. Like I followed every rule to the T, because I walked in and I was like, I'm not leaving until I get hired here. I wanted so badly to work at the company, and luckily it was just a great match. But yeah, I started, and my first day on the job, it was my first time to do anything like this. Erin Bent was my manager, and she took me to lunch, and we sat down at Snappy Salads, and she said, by the way, I'm pregnant. So we have like a timeline on you getting up and running like sooner versus later. And I was like, great, awesome. But yeah, I started selling subscriptions for NLE and doing recruiting for recruiters to bring on internally. And yeah, it's progressed to this, where now I just am client facing, and it's been a great experience.
Nice. What was the learning curve? Because selling both at that's interesting. You had to sell kind of NLE and kind of on the recruiting people. Like, what were some of the challenges you faced? Like, what was some of that learning curve like?
It's funny that you ask that, because I think that a lot of people face the same thing with their business. At least when I'm talking to owners, I do see it a lot. We've kind of moved to a different model to where it's like team focused search. But especially when I started, it was more of like you brought someone on as a recruiter, and your goal was to get them to do full business development and recruiting as quickly as possible. But what I experienced in my role was I would always gravitate towards the things that were easier, because I could just knock them out. So I'd focus more on the recruiting side. And I actually, sat down with Jeff, and I was like, well, I want to make more money. So how do I do that? And he said, well, you got to do more sales. And I was like, well, I don't really want to do that. And he said, well, then you don't have to, but that's kind of the way that it goes. And I said, okay, well, I guess I'll do it. And then I just really wanted to focus in on it. So I eliminated the other distractions. I gave up kind of my baby of the recruiting piece, and I said, I'm just going to go all in on this, because I know I can do both of them. But if I take that time that I'm spending and spreading myself in all areas, I can be really great at one thing. And that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah, there's probably some lessons there, because niching down and all that is always a huge topic. In industry, something you get all the time, I get all the time. Working with agency owners as well. So let's kind of let's go into that. Like at now at your current role, you're talking to, just like you and I both are talking to owners every single day, typically different phases and different problems that they're looking to solve in their business. It's kind of some of the the business operations, if you will, all the pieces coming together. I'm obviously focused a lot more on the marketing side, but what are the conversations you're having, the problems that you guys are solving day to day right now for agency owners?
It's different for everybody, but I would say there's a few things that stand out more than others. I think that most people can agree that 21 and 22 were just banner years for most people. I mean, you didn't have to have a lick of talent, and you could just pick up the phone and make money. It was just a crazy time in the market, which was awesome. I think it would probably be the worst time to ever start in this industry, because thinking that that was the norm was just not. And then in 2023, it kind of started to slow down, but it was, I always kind of refer to it as the freshman 15 when you go to college. Like, you don't realize that you're dating at freshman 15, but then when you go home for, the holidays, people that haven't been seeing you every day, they're like, oh, well, there's that freshman 15.
And that was my grandfather, by the way. He's like, "Oh, you got fat." I was like, "Thanks, Grandpa. Appreciate that." Yeah.
Exactly. So, I feel like that was what 2023 was. It was just like a very slow progression of like the market was just kind of balancing out, not as crazy. And then that bled into 2024. And of course, trickled into 2025 too. But there's just been more challenges. I think that their opportunities are there. Absolutely. It's just you have to work a little bit harder and try different things in order to capitalize on them. I think some of the big things right now are, one, making sure that you have that niche and you're a market master at what you're doing is super important. That's something that we really believe in here, is being really targeted in your niche and market. Generalists know, spread out too thin. Really, really knowing what your market is, I think, is really critical, because you want to be that go-to expert. If you're competing against another firm that does multiple industries and aren't as specialized, you have the upper hand in that. So I think that is one. I think that the biggest one that I'm sure of talking to your clients too is getting more business, getting more, not just getting more business, but more quality business, and the different ways to do that. And I think that really boils down to one thing, and that's more conversations, more good quality conversations, and how you're driving that. And because a lot of times I'm like, okay, so if more business is a priority, how much marketing are you doing? How much, outbound effort are you putting in there? And then it's crickets. And there's the answer. So putting in a strategy and a system, in a workflow that actually can make that work. The follow-up sequences, all of those things that go into it. And Jeff has been a big believer of this over the years. And I mean, I've tried many things and a lot of them have failed, but he's like, I don't care. He's like, throw as much spaghetti at the wall as possible and we'll see what sticks. But I think that if you want to make things different, if you want to get more clients, if you want to target your niche more, if you want to hire more qualified individuals and retain them, whatever the issue is that an owner is facing, you have to actually do something about it. Wishing and hoping isn't a strategy. And unfortunately, a lot of these, the business firm owners, they're wearing so many hats that they don't have a lot of time to dedicate to working on the business versus in the business, which is, it's hard. It really is hard. But that's where I think that we help a lot, is helping you dedicate that time and helping you actually execute it. But I think that finding new quality clients, and also too, my conversations have gotten more positive over the past probably 4 or 5 months on people are hiring more, which that means you want to be hiring recruiters and individuals and SDRs and things like that if business was not getting better. But you want to make sure that if you're doing that, that you actually have the system in place to take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The and I have seen that. I feel like it's there's definitely I always get a little bit more biased. I tend to end up working with people that are like kind of like get it or getting after it or willing to do the volume and the marketing and have the right conversations, so that by nature they're going to do the things that they need to get more of those conversations going. Like if I'm tying it all together, the market mastery, if you know construction, all that. Number one, when I talk to people like recruiters that are market masters, it is so easy to create content for
Yeah.
them. It's a joke. And then it comes off right away. People are like, how do I get ROI work? It's like, how well do you know your stuff? I really know it. Okay, well, you'll probably see results because people, that jumps off the screen to people
Right.
when you know what you're talking about and
It's
the
relatable.
intricacies. Yes, it's relatable. Knowing that, like, hey, I know the market of this. I might not be the expert. I'm not going to be a superintendent or a construction manager, but maybe I've worked in the business, maybe on the TA side. Now I'm agency and all that. Like, to leverage your strengths and really understand your strengths. I think that's one thing like
Absolutely.
that, like, it is so critical, right? Like, you got to know what you're bringing to the table. I know, like, talking to the dimensional search leadership, it's really like understanding what is someone bringing to the table from outside agency recruiting that they can leverage right away, right, to get those conversations. Like, it's that matters whether you're outside recruiting, in recruiting. That's where you should be doubling down. That's where your low hanging fruit is. Like, where could people respect you? And it's so much like, how can I get business? And I mean, like, if you flip the answer to that, right? Like, where do people respect me? Where can I gain credibility? Like, that's where you should go after
Yeah.
and lean into it. But I feel like the trap of people get like, well, I don't want to miss out on stuff. It's like the ironic thing is, if you come across as a specialist, people will ask, hey, you seem like you really know what you're doing here. Do you also know what you're doing here? Like, and like, it's like, right, it's how we assume, like, why do we care what like athletes think about politics? It's because they're really amazing at being an athlete. Why do we care about other things they say? Like, we shouldn't, right? But like, we kind of do, because we really respect people that are great at one thing,
Yeah.
and we kind of go to them first to see if they're good at the other things versus the jack of all trades.
Yeah.
But I don't know what your thoughts on there, but that's
No,
yeah.
I agree. And I think that kind of goes back to the team focused search piece of it. And I mean, we've had personal conversations. I have a little 2.5-year-old, and I'm a big believer in, like, whatever he is going to be really into and great at, like, pour into that, right?
Yeah.
If he's not great at math or science or writing or anything like that, of course, I want him to be like educated on it. But why am I going to make him try and get better at something that he really isn't interested in and really doesn't enjoy, when he's really phenomenal and like exceptionally gifted or talented in a certain area? Obviously, he's 2.5, so that's just dinosaurs and
They're
eating.
gifted at everything at 2.5.
Um,
Yeah.
but as an owner, looking at you, like, your time as value, your time is
Yes.
valuable, and putting, like, where do you feel like your time can be spent the most effectively and profitably and enjoyably for your business is such an important question. And when you're spread so thin, it's really hard to do. But really honing into those things that are really great for you and for your people. Again, not making someone do business development. If they're really phenomenal at recruiting, let them be a phenomenal recruiter. Like,
Oh, yeah.
great, go do that. Like, why, especially for you, people could be like, oh, I do my own digital marketing and everything. And, I do a little bit here and there. Well, but that's not what you're an expert in. You're an expert at, cardiovascular, engineer placement. So why are you trying to create a website?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking earlier, I bought a house. I don't know what I'm doing with, like, the sprinkler system. I'm not going to chat GPT it. Like, that's probably not the best idea. I'm going to hire someone that is an expert at it to come and fix it, because that is worthwhile to do it the right way. And
Yeah.
that's probably where you're going to see the most success. And I think that should be applied to our business as well.
Yeah. You might ask ChatGPT who you should call,
Yes,
right? But
yes,
not necessarily
yes,
follow the do-it-yourself instructions, and end up with the floor caving in or something crazy. But yeah,
exactly.
so you've talked about kind of having the people, the owners that you see make the jump. I think I've seen, like, you guys have like 200K owner that got to $12 million agency. I mean, there's some crazy wins, some crazy stories that you guys have helped scale so many agencies in recruiters' desks. Like, where do you feel like, if I'm a recruiter that's just kind of stuck, right? Let's say like at 200K, I don't feel like I have any. Like, I'm all by myself. I can't really do it. I've kind of already tried these different tech tools and everything else. Like, there's so much tech out there, so much AI and all that. Like, where does, like, the consulting, the coaching, like the working with the experts that have, like, done it, like, where do you feel like people benefit from or missing that kind of like helps kind of take that next step? You know what I mean? If they just like really commit to doing that and not trying to solve everything themselves.
I think that just owning that piece up front is so important. Of, I don't know what I don't know, and utilizing the people, like, on our team with our SRA offices, our coaches, all of the things that we offer, actually listening and wanting to do it. Because if you look at it, if we're honest with ourselves, and this is not just, it's in life in general, if there's things that you want to do and things that you want to change, and it's been things that you want to do and change, and yet it
Yeah.
doesn't happen, what's going to change?
Yeah.
Nothing's going to change unless you start listening to other perspectives and then actually wanting to take that advice. It's one thing to sit there. I do this with my friends all the time. If they're going through something or they're venting about something, I say, do you want advice or do you want ears? Because it's important. Do you want me to just listen and say, yes, I totally get it. I totally see your perspective. Yes, yes. And just be that listening ear? Or do you want someone to say, okay, we've looked at everything. Now let's talk about what a solution is. And if someone really wants a solution, I think that that's the biggest thing of, okay, well, I don't know what I'm doing here. I know exactly what I'm doing in my business. I know exactly how to find the right candidates, and I know exactly how to close a new deal with a client. All the other pieces of it, I'm not really as efficient. And so actually taking that advice and perspective and wanting, like, that's what you want to see the value in, is like what you're actually doing, even like with what you do, like taking, like in our work together, how many times I've said, you know what, I'm going to listen to what you say and what your advice is, because you're the expert at it, not me. I'm learning from you. So I think that that's a really big critical thing that people have to be ready to accept. I really do want to change things, and I want expert advice, and I want to listen.
Yeah. And
And of
it's,
course, to have questions and like pushback and like have those conversations, but ready to take advice and perspective from people that have done it successfully when you look at your track record and you're like, I'm really great at these areas, but I haven't been able to do that. Those plateau conversations are the hardest for me,
Yeah.
because I hate it for owners of like, I've been stuck here and like, I'm working my tail off. I'm doing all of these things, but they just can't get past that. Is something that has to change in order to do it. And it could be, it's not just one thing. It's not one magic button that you can press. It's a holistic approach.
Quick break to talk to you about something. I know you're dealing the back office grind. If you're like me, you hate dealing with the back office, off the paperwork, taxes, and the payroll, and all that drives me nuts. I have people do it. I can't handle doing it myself. I got into recruiting. You got into recruiting not to do paperwork. We want to talk to candidates, want to talk to clients, want to close recs, close deals. You don't want to be spending time chasing payroll or anything like that. So I want to tell you about Signature Back Office Solutions. They've been doing this since 2006. If you need funding to pay your contractors, done. If you need them to run payroll, done. Workers' comp, compliance, all that, done, done, and done in all 50 states, even industries like healthcare, which can be a little bit tricky. They'll cover everything. So whether you're a startup, a solo firm, if you've been doing this for years, you have hundreds of people on your team. If you're an executive search firm that wants to add staffing and contractor, if your clients are asking you for help there, it can be an incredible revenue stream. And if you don't know about that, it's a great way to add to your multiplier if you ever think about selling your company. Signature has a solution that fits. So go to signaturebackoffice.com, check out the link in the episode's description, and that'll take you to more details and to be able to book a call with John Davis, President and CEO of Signature Back Office. He'll talk to you directly, tell them the digital recruiter sent you. Yeah, it's I don't know if it's agency recruiting or sales and kind of how sales even talked about in our country, but there's a just like I just got to keep grinding and I'll figure it out. Versus like the opposite is, and it's kind of typically true. Like it's Maddie, my wife, who's runs our operation. She's like, I want you to tell all our clients like slow down to speed up. Like that is the name of the game in all this
True.
is because it's just like it's just go go go, but like you're at you gotta just slow down, and it can't always just be the squeaky wheel gets the grease
Yep.
type of thing. It kind of has to take a step back and look at everything holistically, and I've done that with agency owners, and I'm not necessarily equipped to answer all that stuff. You guys have more resources to handle a bunch of stuff that I don't want to cover, or maybe I don't feel like I'm an expert at, but I know like, hey, that probably needs to be addressed before we even look at this or anything else. Like it just, you have to do it. And you and I were talking earlier today. It's like a rite of passage. I mean, the audacity to think that you can always do this on your own, or even if you try to work with someone and maybe it didn't work out, but like you should always be searching for like who can be in my corner. And sometimes you have to invest in that. Like that's totally fine. Usually you have to invest in that, but every year I'm investing in some sort of program, right? And
Absolutely.
my nuggets are going to be completely different. Last year invested in a program that like the ROI, could I like a completely attribute certain things to an ROI, my money back? Yes and no, but I don't think that way. I know that in conversations I had with one of my account managers there, he actually someone that didn't know my business get to look at it and was like, dude, you're doing this and that. Like, you should speak in front of our people. I'm like, it was just so validating. No,
Yeah.
like, oh, like, sweet. Like, I'm further along in some areas than I like just getting my head out of my day to day and getting a fresh set of eyes.
Absolutely.
It's like, you're actually like way closer than you think. You actually could be doing this, and that. It was a huge boost to my business,
Yeah.
right? I could, if I wanted to be really kind, attribute like a significant ROI to that. Now, some of the initial promises they made, maybe I didn't get ROI on some of those things, but it opened up a whole avenue or do ROI that I wasn't even expecting, right? And I think the difference I've seen with people that invest in stuff that feel like they got the value is being open to just like attributing like this was the domino that got the ball rolling in the right direction. And I don't know if it came from, for me, it's like, did it come from automation or was it a manual message? Was it exactly from a content post? It's like, I don't know, but it all had an impact on
Absolutely.
everything going in the right direction. And to me, that's the healthiest way to look at any of this stuff and all this stuff. And like
Yeah.
normalizing, like doing this every year. It's a tax write off. Like we don't write it off, right? My wife yells at me because she's like, it's not like you're just like saving money because it's a tax write off. I'm like, yeah, but it's a tax write off. But again, like just doing those things, like you just don't know if you don't just like dive in and just go for it because
Yeah.
there are experts, right? Your whole team has done this before. You've done it over and over again. Like it's not, I was making fun of the broccoli haired, 22-year-olds that think they kind of know it all. It's like, it's none of that stuff. Right. And I'll get crap for saying that. I don't care. Right. But like, it's like, it's legit. Like there's proven stuff. Like, how could you not learn from something like that? If someone's like looking at your business with that background, how could you not get better?
Yeah. I think so many of the things you just said are so relevant. Um, I I kind of sometimes will look at it like if you were renovating a house, right? If you look at we're going to gut the whole house, it's very overwhelming. But usually that's not how most people do it, unless you're like buying it to flip. Like if you buy a house and you know that it's going to need some like TLC, what do? You renovate one room at a time because financially, most of the time, that's what people can afford.
Yeah,
But doing it project by project, but meeting with someone and saying, okay, here's all the things I want to do. Where should we start? What makes the most sense? What's going to have the highest ROI? I've been looking at it as projects and looking at your business like that. And another thing you said about, don't only oil the squeaky wheel. I think that a huge piece of it is don't let it get squeaky. People wait until it's a huge problem, and then that's when you definitely don't want to address those issues when they become a problem. You want to be proactive in figuring out where are my blind spots so I can be proactive in avoiding them and making sure
absolutely.
that I have the things in place that do protect me and my business when things are a little bit down and I can take advantage of what the opportunities are when the business is up.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. The best time to invest in digital marketing is when you have a plate full of recs that can close,
Yep.
because then you are not stressed about having meetings and all that, and like you don't have commission breath and
Yeah.
any of that stuff. Like you just let our team kind of handle it and like just keep doing what you're doing, and then it's like when you look up, you're like, all right, I need some more meetings and all that. You've already been building the foundation and the content and the outreach and the everything else. You have like a warm set of leads to follow up with. It's
Yeah.
a lot easier to do it than when you're like, I can do this, but like, I gotta make my money back in 3 weeks. I'm like, you are not ready for this.
No.
And like,
Always like, you get off a good one. Like,
yeah, it's like go get some invoices paid and then come back,
right.
right? And talk to me. So like, it's there is like that piece of it, and then there is just like, okay, but how do I do that, right? How do I do the and recruit and sell and do operations and all that? Like, how do like you and like the coaches like kind of like tackle that or address that? I guess more of a high level way. I know it's super customized
Yeah.
to each recruiter, but like, I mean, sure, it's like a room at a time, but I guess like what does it look like in kind of recruiting terms?
Yeah, so I mean, we have different programs that we work with people on at different lengths, different intensity, all of those things. And I think that where you start is, figuring out like where are you at today? Where let us understand where your business is because you make a good point. It is so customized because it's not a cookie cutter, copy and paste for anybody. Everybody is different, but at the end of the day, it's you're running a firm, right? So getting into the intricacies of your business, understanding the business, and figuring out where you are today, where you want to go in the next 2 to 3 years or the next 5 years, and then strategically working with our team to figure out what those solutions are. And that depends on all of it. Like, okay, so what are you using for your workflows? What tech stack do you have in place? What's your team dynamic? What's the structure of your team? Who do we need to hire? A lot of people, when they say they want to grow, they think that they have to hire. Well, there's lots of different people. You could hire an SDR. I have an SDR on my team, and she's phenomenal. You could hire a recruiter. Maybe you need to hire someone that's bringing on more business development and just focus to that. It's so different for everyone depending on what their situation is. But again, it's specifically working with them on that customized approach and not just talking and having a lot of word salad and like, oh yeah, that was great. And then you hang up and you're like, yeah, I feel really good after that, but now what? Like
Yeah.
that's not a good feeling. What we want to do is talk through things, feel really good about it, but also have actionable steps that you can take on each of those areas to be able to execute to get you closer to where you want to go. And then with Sanford Rose, we actually help you in executing
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, with like discounts and like tools and everything that people know, and it's like yeah, the group rates and the discounts. I'm like, man, if I ever want to like start this thing back up, like I it's like it's very enticing because I don't like the back office stuff and everything else, and having kind of the group rate discounts and like it's just a lot to be on your own, and it's like interesting. And I've had a couple clients come from SRA even before we started working together that were
that.
SRA members, and it's just like yeah, there's things that you just don't have to worry about, or you can get rates and discounts and like and know that you guys, and I know you guys are always searching and talking about people like what's the best like tools and tech and what makes sense and how does it all integrate and everything else. Like you're doing so much of that thinking
Yeah.
for people, that it just becomes a matter of like, all right, pick option A or pick option B, right? And like reducing decision fatigue is a huge thing
Oh my
as
gosh.
an owner, right?
Especially
So
now
yeah.
with all like AI and the tech stack and all of it, it's overwhelming. It's
Yeah.
overwhelming, and the decision fatigue, it's a huge thing. Um, it's also too not it's not just procurement and discounted rates. It's if you want to hire, let us help you hire. You have a team dedicated to do that. You want to hire someone, you brought someone on board, but you don't, like what you said, you don't want to train. Usually the best producers are not always the greatest managers. Jeff has had that conversation with me many a times. It's like, you're wonderful, you're great as a manager, a little harsh, a little bit harsh. I'm like, okay, yep. But your weaknesses, your strengths. But usually, as an owner, I don't know what you've seen, but when I talk to owners, a lot of the time, if they're in like the middle of a transition, they're like, I really just want to be, I just want to be a rainmaker. Like, I just want to be talking to clients. I'm going to get new business. I don't want to be like managing and doing all of that. So they would want to bring on somebody that could help do the operational side. They wouldn't need
Yep.
to go hire more recruiters. Like, I mean, maybe. But then there's other people, they're like, I need to come out of like being the rainmaker so I can actually focus on the business and like strengthening the people that we have, and being a
Mhm.
leader and giving more opportunities. But it's really hard to do that when you're doing it all by yourself.
Yeah.
There's only 24 hours in a day, and there's a lot to be said for working smarter, not harder.
Yeah. What's trying to think of the best way to frame the question. Like, if you're looking at the market picking up, right? You're seeing opportunities, do the stuff now that you can capitalize on in 6 months, which is something you've talked about. Like, how like do you feel like an owner should be attacking? And it's kind of like a vague question. You answer it however you want. Like, should be thinking and like planning and preparing to attack the next like 1 to 2 years.
I think that the biggest question to ask themselves is, what time am I dedicating to working on the business? Like, if
Yeah.
it's an hour a week, like what are you doing to look at not how to get more clients, how to close more deals, how to get those your fees paid, or how to negotiate, none of that. But what are you doing to dedicate time to working on your business? Are you working with an outside firm like us? Are you working with someone like you? Are you exploring new things? Like, the continual education and learning, I think, is really important, and not just staying stagnant. Because I
Yeah.
mean, when we started in this business thing, LinkedIn was around when I started, but 20 years ago it wasn't. So if I talk to someone today and they're like, well, I don't have LinkedIn because when I started, LinkedIn wasn't around. Okay.
That's a fun one.
Like,
Yeah.
do you fax your resumes? Do you snail mail them and like lick the envelope? Probably not. And if you do, okay, there's a lot more efficient ways to do it.
Yeah.
But talking to people, like even with you, like talking to you as an expert in digital marketing is going to give so much more um, just information, options, opportunity for people to think about. Like, even in our conversations, I'm like, I didn't even think of that. Like, it's just eye opening because that's what you do. So
Yeah.
really, what are you doing to learn more about what you don't know, and owning like, I don't know what I don't know. And one of the things that you said, I thought, is just so appropriate, and it's the validation too of having strategic conversations with people like our team, or people like you in the digital marketing space, of saying, okay, what here's what I'm doing. Where am I at? Like, getting that validation of, you're doing this really great. This is amazing. This is like working out perfectly. Here, maybe we could tweak this. This is what, maybe this is an area that we need to work in this area. Whoa, like red, danger. Let's like, we got to really work on this. We got to stop the bleeding here. But that validation of being like, okay, these other things that maybe were on my mind and I was wondering about or worried about really aren't as important as these other areas that maybe I'm not even doing yet.
Yeah.
So I think that dedicating that time is so important, and it's just a struggle for most owners.
Yeah.
It's a
Well,
struggle for all of us.
it is. And well, we've been chipping away, right? I mean, if you just think about like, look at the LinkedIn profile and outreach and the content and the DMs and everything. We just like keep chipping away
Yep.
at stuff. And like, that's all you can really, like, that's what you can
And it
do.
doesn't
Like, that's what
happen
this
overnight.
is.
It doesn't
Right.
happen overnight. I know you preach that all the time, and it's so important
Yeah.
that like we always want these quick results. But how quick were you to start working on the issue? You
Right.
took 4 years to start working on it, and you expect results in two? No,
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Not in my experience, at least. But if you want to sit in the results of what you're doing today, you've got to do it today. The results that you're getting are in 3 months. I mean, if you're having a fantastic month and your quarter is fantastic, it's probably because what you were doing the quarter before. It's not because what you're doing yesterday.
Exactly. And it's like as our my friend Keely said, who introduced us, like he always celebrates the small wins. And then
Absolutely.
really having that
You
that
have
mindset,
to.
it's easy to celebrate the big wins, right? You get a placement, payment gets, invoice gets paid, all that good stuff. But yeah, the small wins and knowing that the signals are there, right? And it's sort of our work together, you saw that right away, like, oh, all right, like here we go, like we're on to something. And then it's like the signals are there. How do we optimize? How do we stay consistent? To your point, what's the workflow need to look like? So we just keep this going, right? You're looking for reasons to succeed and keep this going. And those are the traits I see people that stay consistent. I still get messages 2 years later, 3 years later, still working, 3 more retainers, 5 more retainers, this. I'm like, awesome. Like, okay, now it's time for you to talk to the digital recruiter community because you've been at it 2 to 3 years and share your story and all that and that consistency and kind of, your point of how Jeff thinks about just the abundance mentality. Like, I've seen people get way more out of this industry by just having that piece of it and looking for reasons for things to work versus not.
And just
It's just huge.
knowing that it's ongoing. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just an event, it's a habit. It's a habit of every day tweaking, and progress is better than perfection, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's constantly changing, especially in our space. And I think that also opening up our minds to like, what are we doing? What are we not doing that we could be doing? Even like with
Yeah.
our conversation, it's just eye opening because you just don't know what you don't know. And
Yeah.
it's an important thing to do, but you can't ask those questions until you have conversations because you don't even know the questions to ask.
Yeah. It's that's exactly it. Exactly. Well, as we wind it down, any last words of wisdom that you want to share with the audience?
Um, Meryl Streep said, "Start by starting," and I think that that
Yeah,
is
nice.
so important to remember. That it's just have the conversation. You never know where it could go. No is my second favorite answer because it's a no for right now. It doesn't mean it's a no forever. Um, and yeah, I think it's just always try to be evolving, be open to different ideas, have the conversations, and and also too, I think it's just important to be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself on what you want to do because if you say that you want to do XYZ and then there's solutions for XYZ, then actually do them. Or realize that, well, maybe I don't really want to do that, which is okay too.
Yeah.
If it's your business, you can create whatever you want to. But I think getting the clarity of like knowing what you want to do and also knowing what it's going to be required to achieve that, there's a lot of power in that too because sometimes you can be like, I definitely want to do this, and then you see what it takes. Like I do that all the time, like, oh, I want to lose 20 pounds. Oh, I don't know if I'm really ready to give up ice cream. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So knowing what's going to be required to do that, and then just doing it. Start by starting. It doesn't have to be a whole gutting of the house. It can be renovations room by room.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not about telling everyone that you're going to start. Just do it. Like doing
Yeah.
it quietly kind of works. There's a lot of power in that. Obviously, with your coach or your consultant, like that's fine. But it doesn't have to be this whole, top on LinkedIn. Don't post about like, hey, I'm going to do this thing or like even tracking the entrepreneur journey. Like just focus on the problems that you're solving and like those conversations, right? Almost take the spotlight off you. It's a lot of the best marketing that's done and that happens. So it's, yeah, wise words. So well said, Meryl Streep. I say better published than perfect, but I like saying you start by starting. I
Yeah.
like that, so
Yeah.
I'll add that to the repertoire. Well,
Yes.
um, thank you so much for
Yeah,
joining
thank you
me for
so
talking
much.
shop. It's been
Yeah,
great. As always, we always have good conversations.
of
So
course, of course.
this is super helpful, and
You rock. You're awesome.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
The We'll have to link the URL for your LinkedIn in the episode summary if you're curious about SRA and Sanford Row, excuse me, and Next Level Exchange. I mean, there's training platforms, everything. You're tagged on every company on this, but we'll have the company, the URL as well, the episode page. Go check it out. Go talk to Michelle if you want to learn more. You can obviously have a great conversation. She more than knows her stuff and has practiced what she preaches for a while now. So it's just great to be here. And if you got some value out of it, give us some love, 5 stars, subscribe, download, all that good stuff. Share with your friends, your recruiting friends. Anything else? That's all I got.
That's all I got.
No? All right. Till next time, y'all. Happy hunting.
Bye.